A year ago, I asked our mission team to look for some missions that would do for family ministry, also for mission team involvement. We really put a lot of prayer into finding things that would accommodate a family type church, which we are. And we were very blessed that through First Baptist Pinson, we were able to join with them in this mission to Nicaragua. First Baptist Pinson has been involved in this ministry for, I think, 8 years now. And what I had kind of tasked our missions team with was to find a mission that we could do that would be a 3-year involvement, something where we could really build some connection with people, really make a difference. You know, we have always supported our college students as they've gone to various places throughout Alaska, New York, and you'll be hearing from some of those guys during this same presentation.
We went down for spring break, flew up to New York and stayed in the community of Astoria.
And in Nome I got that. I went from 80 degrees to negative 10 degrees.
It was interesting. It's a different way to spend spring break. Everybody else is talking about going to the beach, and I was like, yeah, I went to the semi-beach. It's 90-degree weather, but I was working on houses. I'm like, that's cool. Do you work on your own? No, it was 70 here. Went to Nicaragua.
The value of being able to take our church as part of family ministry and build a house or 2 houses or 3 houses, and also to have an impact on the schools where you can go in and do vacation Bible schools, you can do drama, there's medical missions that are there. All these things exist, and so my dream, my goal, if you will, is to be able to take our church in family ministry to Nicaragua in a long-term relationship with these folks, and be able to make a difference, go back and see the children we sponsor, love on them, hug them, and see what's actually happening in their life. To me, that is a huge thing. And so I really appreciate our mission team putting us in direct involvement with this ministry. But we've always supported missions as individuals. My goal is for us to support missions as families.
Before you can meet somebody's spiritual needs, you really need to meet their physical needs. To me, personally, that's what, I mean, you have to have food. You have to have a roof over your head. I mean, if I was in that situation, I don't care what, this is going to sound weird, but I don't care what this man in a book said. I don't have a house. I don't have food to eat. I need those, then I'll listen to you. So that's what the trip was to me.
We went to Diriamba, Nicaragua, and our purpose of going there was to build houses for the people in the community there through the Nicaraguan mission organization there.
We were the hands and feet of Christ, preparing the ground for people to come in after us. While we were building houses and while we were doing work that was great for them and great to provide their earthly desires, we were also going in preparing for them spiritually, for enhancing them. You know, they've told us multiple times, it means so much to them, the people of Nicaragua, for us as Americans who have so much, to leave our comfort, our homes, our cars, our air conditioning, and go there for an entire week and spend time with them and do something for them. And they said it means so much to them to speak about Christ's love and to speak about what Christians really are and what Christians should do and what Christians are meant to live for, is to share God's love in whatever way possible. So whether that's me giving up my spring break, or whether it's Rick giving up an entire week, or whether it's Timmy giving up a week of work, or whether it's Daniel giving up a week of work, we've all went and we all shared that hands and feet of Christ. So.
I know when I first went in to see the poverty these people are living in, It's just basically pieces of tin thrown up with some tarp. They got chickens tied to little pieces of vegetation to keep them from running off. And it'll just break your heart to see these children and the way they live. But none of them are sad. They all seem to have a wonderful attitude. And so it's just really refreshing to see people jump in and want to make a difference in their own lives. And you're there to help them with this.
You go and see these people and you see how they live, and you think, how can anyone live in this poverty and not be miserable? And but they're always smiling. The children have smiles on their faces the whole time. The adults are welcoming, and they always seem to be happy.
To see people that truly have literally nothing or next to nothing, and they're thankful for the least little thing that you can give them, that God gives to them. I mean, it makes you appreciate what you have, but also humbles you and gives you a heart for wanting to reach out and help someone else.
We would go into some of the more impoverished areas that were actually right next to a dump. It was a giant landfill, not even a mile away from where we were working. And we had to go in and let these three families know that we were going to be coming in and building them a new house.
That kind of trust could only come through Christ. I couldn't imagine somebody just saying, okay, build me a house. I'll tear mine down, push it to the side, and you can build me a new one. That's got to be something, that's something bigger than ourselves. That's faith.
The house that I worked on first day, we came to find out that the house that was torn down on that lot was where the local church met and gathered. So it was kind of special to me to know that I was working on a replacement for a house of worship in addition to a family's household.
For me, the first house that we built was at the house that the church met at. The mother, there was a daughter and 2 sons. At the dedication service, the mother was talking about the trials that she had gone through. And she started on this story about how she had lost her son. And she had saved up all this money to try to buy a house and to try to make a better living for her and her family, to where she could afford the money to try to fix up the house in whatever way they could. Because, I mean, the house is in shambles. But she was willing enough to open it up for church. And, I mean, that just goes to show that God can use whatever he wants to. But the mother got to start explaining the story. And she had saved up money for the house. And then her son got sick. And she used every ounce of money that she had saved up to try to save her son's life. And then the son died. Come to find out, the son had died 3 or 4 months before we had gotten there. And so to go in and almost repair that money that she had used saving up to try to save her son, and for us to give her a house that she had been wanting, and her breaking down and bringing, most of our guys that were on the mission trip to tears as well, and the people that were there that knew her story to tears. And just to hear that story and to know what impact that we had was awesome.
One of the houses that we built, the family was a mother, 2 daughters, and a son, and then the mother's dad. There was no just like father figure there outside of the grandfather, but one of the daughters had what we're guessing is cerebral palsy. She couldn't get up or move on her own. She would just sit on a couch inside the house. And so when they tore down the house, they had to move a chair out for her and then pick her up and move her over to the chair and set her down and then tear down the house and move her in like that. Well, the last night, we kind of felt pressed on our hearts that this girl needed a wheelchair to be able to get around.
We built her and her family a house, but from the beginning, from day one, because it was the last house that we built, but it was the first house that we went to where we told them that we were giving them a house. And from day one, I knew and I felt in my heart that she needed something more than a house. She needed, because we were going to build her a house but she would probably never leave that house. And just when we pulled our money together and bought her a brand new wheelchair for $75.
And we took the wheelchair over there and gave it to her, and the mother broke down. Like, she was just so thankful for it. And that's something that we take for granted. We have, not only do we have wheelchairs, but we've got like wheelchair ramps and stuff like that, like things that are made to make it easier to get around. And we were just able to give someone something that affected them so much.
So she could see the outside world instead of being contained in 4 walls her entire life was pretty incredible for me.
The grandfather, he didn't cry or anything, but you could tell it moved him too. And that was something the entire week that was pressed on me, because every time I saw that grandfather, I knew like he had already provided for his family. And then now, at the time that he should be able to rest, he's not able to rest because he's had to provide again. And just to be able to help them out in that way was incredible.
After we finished up the houses, we finished a little early with those, and we got a chance to work in the local school there, work with the kids, do a little painting, a little building project on a water tower there.
They needed a water tower built for their water. I'm sure they used it for the whatever the toilets and the whatever they needed the water for. We actually constructed a 12-foot stand for this particular water tank to sit on, and it took us about it took us most of the majority of a day and I think part of the next morning to get finished with it.
Charlotte and I sponsor a child that goes to the school down there, and I got to meet him, and for me that was absolutely the most memorable thing. I got to meet him and his brother. I got to meet their mother, talk with their mother, and that was really a great moment on the trip.
I was reminded of what Gina had told me on the trip in from the airport the first night we were there. She told me about the opportunity that they have to sponsor kids down there at the school. For $175 a year, we can sponsor a child that will give that child at least one good meal every day. We'll give them uniforms to attend that school. We'll provide for their tuition to attend that school, supplies, things. It provide everything that child needs to go to school for 1 year, plus feed them what may be the only good meal they have all day. As much as I have that God has blessed me with, He has told me more and more and more. I am to sponsor a child.
Well, we built these houses for these people. They would not even move into their home until we had what they call just a little small dedication service. And being part of this dedication of this home, seeing the actual ribbon cutting, like you would do a business here in our town, being part of that dedication of a home that you were a part of building, it was just wonderful, and seeing the actual family that was getting this home and the reaction on their face, the tears and just everything associated was just so wonderful.
I ran into the problem of whenever I first got there, I kind of fell into the pitfall of wondering how much spiritual good we were doing by providing these houses. How much of it was really leading to their spiritual health, or how much of it was just us getting in there and knowing that they need a house. And so we built a house, and they did whatever it took to get the house, which was, I'm a member of a church. But then during one of the dedications, Mama Nubia got up in front of the entire house, and she started preaching. And oh my word, it was like an old school revival. Like, she gets up and she's like, she would get up there and say that I'm not promising we're going to build you a house. I'm not promising that we can give you all these things, but I can promise you that there's a God above who can provide all these things and so much more for you. And it was just one of those moments. There were grown men in there with tears in their eyes, and it was just like, okay, yeah, we're doing something. So
I think the highlight for me was to be able to go to the dedication service. I was blessed to be able to be part of that and hear the pastor in their own language describe to them that it is all about Jesus and His love and mercy and grace that made this moment possible. Mama Nubia is the spiritual leader of all this. She was a woman who was born out of a really bad situation. She was a product of a rape. She grew up to marry a pastor. They began to start churches in houses. They actually sold their house to found the very first one. She is a dynamo, and at every house dedication, she made it clear that it wasn't the promise of a house that made it all worth it. It was the promise of Jesus and eternity. That our homes are really prepared, not on this earth, but they are prepared in a place way beyond this to where God has prepared us a place. And so that was the highlight to me, was to be able to see the gospel clearly put out there in these homes during the dedication service.
One of the biggest reasons I was so excited to go to Alaska, and Nome in particular, was because I was hoping for a culture shock. I was hoping for something that was 180 degrees different than everything I know. And in Nome, I got that. I went from 80 degrees to negative 10 degrees. I went from humid to as dry as it can possibly be. I went from the Bible Belt to a place where Jesus is not even known or talked about or mentioned. And so what was the success in this trip personally was being able to see how the gospel transcends culture and transcends regions, and how it doesn't matter where you're at, or whether you're in your comfort zone, or whether you are feeling okay about the environment you're placed in, that the gospel is still there, and that the gospel can still be preached, and that people still are able to understand and interpret the message of Christ, which is just an incredible thing. From the second you get off the plane and you begin driving around Nome, you can sense this feeling of hopelessness. People's looks, their demeanor, the way they walk, and just the spirit inside of me was just screaming, this isn't okay. This isn't right. There's war that is being fought there spiritually, and it's a hard fought battle between the churches there and the devil that just has a strong foothold on the souls and the hearts of the people in that community. What's amazing about the Iditarod is this week is Super Bowl week for Nome. It is their week to shine. The basketball tournament's there. Reporters from all over the state are there. These mushers who race the Iditarod are famous. They are known all around Alaska. And so it's the one time for the villagers of Nome to really shine and put their best foot forward. And so what's so amazing about the Iditarod is that you have a chance to take these people who have a little bit of spirit about them now. There's a little bit of pep in their step. And so the villagers aren't as depressed, or the villagers aren't as hopeless as they seem to be during this week. And so it's really cool that you can take this week where there seems to be a little bit more of a hitch in this person's giddy up to kind of really put forth the gospel and to really shine Christ.
Come and listen. Come to the water's edge, are you who know and fear the Lord?
We went down for spring break, flew up to New York and stayed in the community of Astoria. We did a lot of mission work. It was really difficult starting out because we were the first group of missions to go out and start promoting this church.
The pastor was Nathan Kreitz, and he was the one who came down here and kind of got it organized with all the different schools in the area. There was 4 different ones, Auburn, Montgomery, Auburn, Judson College, and then Troy as well.
It was challenging trying to get people to listen to us, trying to decide what we were going to do, because we really had a lot of free reign. He just basically said, here's some flyers, here's some candy, do some street ministry, do whatever you feel you're led to do. So there were times where we were just kind of walking around like we feel useless, what are we going to do? And then we would always stop wherever we were at a park or something, and we would prayer walk. and it would kind of get us back on track. So my group ended up doing a lot of street ministry.
We would all meet up every morning, and then he would send out missions teams into the different communities of Queens. I think there was 10 or 15 different communities within Queens itself that he would send teams of 4 to every day. And we would stand around, hand out flyers with some candy attached to it, just kind of get the word out about the church and just talk to people mainly.
We started out every morning doing at least 45 minutes of prayer walking, where we just turned, the way we did it was every street we would turn down, we would stop and pray for that street. And then we would stop, and whoever was on the street, they looked like, we could approach them. We would say, we're with City Life Church. Is there anything we can pray for you about? And a lot of people would just keep going, shake their heads. And there was so many people, I didn't expect to get that many people that would say, yeah, can you pray for this? Can you pray for, I have a family member. We prayed for one guy's son who was very sick. And I just feel like that's where we did our best work, because we would turn corners and just say, God, we pray for this street. We pray that these people would come to know you, that you would just use us. And then we would also pray, if we wasn't in a very good area, we would pray for just the church. We pray for the preparation of this church. We pray for the minister. And I just feel like that's because we were the first people to go out into mission.
We were able to actually get enough contacts with different people throughout the week that the very next week, that Wednesday, he was able to have a Bible study with 15 people at one of the local churches. And knowing that instead of sitting around doing absolutely nothing at home, that we were able to go up and actually get a Bible study started of 15 people in New York City, which is not a lot of people compared to everybody, but just that, getting that little seed planted is just been a huge impact. Because up until then, Nathan had nothing. There was nobody. He didn't have a single Bible study. He didn't have a church or anything. And now he has, I think he said he had 70 contacts the last time I talked to him. He had 70 contacts that were made over a 2-week period. And they were allowed to, there was a Romanian church that allowed him to come in and use their sanctuary as the place where he could do Bible studies. And he still hasn't got nailed down where he's wanting the church at in Queens. But just the blessings and the impact that we made was, like I said, well worth the trip.
My goal is for us to support missions as families, to be able to take our older youth, our college students, our moms and dads, our grandparents. We had opportunities that we never dreamed available to us, just simply because there's such a need. And so from sewing to building houses, to drama, to music, to medical work, all those things are available through this ministry. And so I really appreciate our mission team, their direction in this. I'm looking forward to next year and seeing how we can expand this ministry. And I appreciate the support of this church, because it is your funding that makes this possible. So we really appreciate that. And we ask you to prayerfully consider sponsoring a child. $175 a year doesn't mean much to us. It means a lot to them. So I'd ask you to prayerfully consider that.